Welcome to another tutorial. In this lesson, I'm going to start the actual Kinetic site, which is project 1. If you recall, we already set up the site. I can review it for you later. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn to page 29, and it wants us to open up the index file. So right over here, you see the index file. If you do not have the files open up, just go to Window, and you'll see Files. I'm going to go over this DOM with you at a later time in this video or in the following videos, and you'll find it very helpful. The book is actually going to have some demonstrations on how to use it. It's also going to have you move some things around. So first thing I'm going to do is open up the index file, and you can see what's actually there. Remember, the index file is your home page. Some of the sites will have you use default. Default and index are actually the same thing as far as the browser is concerned. We're going to use index and only index. And notice that all the files end in .html. Do not worry about that. Just trust me for this one. Some of the files you may see in other sites may be HTML. We want to use HTML and always be consistent with that. If you take a look at the code, you'll see that there's more stuff than we did with the original one, which basically was a blank document. So again, we start off with the doc type. Don't worry about that. Every file is going to have HTML in the very beginning. Notice it has an opening tag and a closing tag. Then the head tag has an opening tag and a closing tag. Anything that's inside the head is not going to be shown on your website. That's for browser information. We're going to not worry about the meta character set in here. That's just going to be consistent with everything over here. So we have the title is untitled document. That is because we have not given it a title. Do not confuse the title with the name of the document. The name of the document is index, and the title of the document is untitled for right now. When you go onto a website and you click on it on the very top or on the bottom, depending upon your browser, you're going to see the actual title of the document showing. The link is a style sheet. What that's telling the browser is I want to use style.css to format my documents. And do not worry about this over here. This is going to always be exactly the same. And it will be put in for you when we actually create a style sheet and link it. Then we end the head. We begin the body. That's where everything is shown. Divs we talked about in a little video, just telling you that this is an opportunity for you to format different areas of your document in ways that you want. Think of it like a home that has 10 rooms and each one has a different color. Each one may have a different red, different furniture, and so on and so forth. Then we have the ID. That's going to help CSS format just this one particular div tag. More on that later. Again, another div inside of the div ID main body. You can have nested div tags, just like if you know Microsoft Word, you can have nested tables. Then you have a nav, beginning, and a nav. A nav is nothing more than a div that has a specific purpose. I could have used div. I could have used anything that I wanted that refers to a div. However, nav is specifically for navigation menus. Then we have a UL and a closing UL. That's an unordered list. We have a list item and an ending list item. These are your home, about, menus, events, contact. That's how menu items are normally set in linked list. So we have a opening and a closing, an opening and a closing, an opening and a closing. And now we have the footer, an opening and a closing. A footer, again, is nothing more than a div that's called footer. That just makes it easier for you to format your document and organize it. One exception to the opening and closing is the source file and image. Notice that we have an image. The source tells us where you find the file, the image. And notice that if I hold my mouse over it, you get a little screenshot of it or a thumbnail. The width and the height will be put in for you automatically. The alt is the actual description of the picture that's going to be read by a screen reader. So if your user has a screen reader that goes down when it gets to the image, it's going to read aloud Kinetic Bistro. I recommend putting image of Kinetic Bistro so the user could not be confused as to what that is. So we're going to go back down to the design, and I'm actually going to begin the tutorial. One thing it tells you is make sure you're in design view and not live view. Remember, if you click this down arrow over here, it's going to give you the option of live or design. We're going to be doing 90% in design mode. You can, however, choose split mode if that's what you like better. I personally find it confusing unless I need it open for a specific reason. So I'm going to double click the index file. Again, we have it open. The next page, it tells us to close the index file. So you can see how the site is set up. One of the pictures, we have another picture. Here's the footer, and here's the menu up here. So let's close that. It tells us now to open up contact. So I'm going to do that. Open up contact, and basically, if you click on code, you're going to see almost the same thing. However, the div contact over here has a little bit different information than we had before. But the look is basically the same. So it tells us to close contact and open up menu. Well, that's easy to do. We're going to click on the X here, and we're going to double click on menu 1, open it up. Again, you have basically the same structure as what you had before. So I'm going to close it. And I'm on page 31 where it tells us to plan folder organization. We talked briefly about how every folder, every item in your website should be organized in a way that is very easy. Think of it as a filing cabinet where you might pay all your bills. You have something for FP&L, you have something for AT&T, you have something for Comcast, MasterCard, American Express, or whatever you have. Most likely you're going to have a file folder, and you're going to put all of the FP&L bills in there, all the bills for Comcast in there, all the bills for AT&T in their own individual folder. That way, when you need something, it's all there. It's the same thing with a site. Every one of your files should be within a folder, with the exception of the index file. The index file needs to be in the root directory. So it tells us to plan a folder organization, and we have the Kinetic site open, of course. And the first thing we're going to do is right-click on the name and choose New Folder. Now, it does tell us to control right-click, but you can just right-click itself. And notice we have option of New File, New Folder, Open, Open with, all the things that you're used to in Microsoft Windows. So I'm going to click on New Folder, and it tells us to type in resources. Notice everything is lowercase. Make sure every file, make sure every picture, make sure everything that you use has all lowercase. If you have something that's long and you need to separate it, such as the onion rings here, use either a dash or a hyphen, whatever you want to call it, or an underscore. However, if you're going to use a dash, use a dash. If you're going to use an underscore, use an underscore throughout your entire documents, all your websites, every one that you create. That way you never worry, well, did I use a minus sign or a hyphen, or did I use an underscore? We're going to be using in our sites all minus signs or all hyphens, depending upon what you want to call it. So we're going to now click on the refresh over here, and notice how it changes in alphabetical order. However, we have the folder up top, resources. Now, the reason why it's actually not in alphabetical order, because I have done this before and I'm one step ahead, and it's sorted by type. So I'm going to sort it by files. Now we have the resources on type, which is a file folder. And yes, I know Mac people, that's not the way it's done on Mac, but we're working on Windows. And then all your files are sorted here alphabetically. We click the refresh button. Now we're going to create a new folder called images. And we talked about that before, how all your images should be in a folder called images. and that should be set up in the site definition. So now we have images. We did that, and we're going to click on refresh. Now it asks us to create another folder called menus. Okay, now what I've done here is I've clicked on the images when I right clicked, and I'm going to put in menus here. And notice the difference between what we did. The menus is now inside the images folder. However, we don't want it. So it's very simple. You don't have to delete the menus folder and recreate it. All you have to do is take it, click on the folder itself, drag it right up here, and it's going to put it where you want it. You can do that with any file as well, which you're going to see very shortly. So now we've done number 6. I'm on page 32. It asks us to refresh. So we're going to refresh, and you'll see the menus will move up top where the folders are. Done. Notice that the folders are sorted alphabetically, and then you have the files are sorted alphabetically. Now it's going to want us to sort the files by the type. So you might not see the type up here. To do that, all you have to do is right-click and make sure type is selected. So I'm going to unselect it, and the type is gone. So I will now reselect it, and then we're going to sort by type just by clicking it. I'm now on page 32 at the bottom. Hopefully you've all done that. I gave you a minute or two to address that. So I'm going to take the burger.jpg, and remember, JPG specifies a JPEG, which is an image file, and I'm going to just take it and I'm going to drag it and put it in the images folder. Now notice the blue lines over here. When we get up top, all we have to do is let it go, and it's moved. Then we want to do the rest of them. And we're going to click on the first one, shift click on the other ones, and we're going to drag it up top. Boom. If you get something that says, do you want to update? Make sure that you choose update. Always, always, always choose update. So we've now done up to number 5 on page 33. And we're now going to select the menu 1 file and the menu 2. And we're going to drag them up into the menus. Okay, now here we have what I was telling you about update. Make sure you always choose update. That takes care of that. What that will do is update the links for you in the files that are there. And I want you to go through organizing the site navigation on page 35. Just take a look at it. You'll notice that you have home, about, menus, events, contact, and then underneath it you have dinner and lunch. That's your organization. So I'm going to stop this video right now. I'm going to try to keep my videos to 20 minutes at the most. That'll give you an opportunity to do things and then take a break, do things, take a break without having a very long video. So please let me know if you have any questions.